My next guest is Charlotte Laws, who is Charlotte Laws on Twitter. She is a revenge porn activist and now an author. Her book, Rebel in High Heels, came out in April. Welcome, Charlotte.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine.
Charlotte, your story could fill 2 books. It's pretty epic, and I know you wrote the whole thing for us at Exo Jane. But if you could give us sort of the Cliff Notes version of how you came to be involved in this cause.
Yes, my daughter took some selfies in the mirror with her cell phone, over 100 pictures. One of them was topless. She sent them through her email to get to her computer, had no intention of ever showing the topless picture to anyone. 3 months later, she was hacked. 9 days later, the topless picture was on the most notorious revenge porn website, along with her name, her city, and her Twitter link. And she was absolutely freaked out, humiliated, called me. That was the first time I'd heard of revenge porn.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of effort trying to get the picture down, and in the meantime reached out to victims and helped them with their pictures and got law enforcement involved. And the FBI arrested the website owner and the alleged hacker about a year ago. Recently, the website owner pleaded guilty to hacking and identity theft, and his sentencing is next month, and the alleged hacker has a court date in about a week.
So that's pretty badass. You actually worked with the FBI.
Well, I started the case, and I provided a lot of names and phone numbers and contact information for people who had been hacked, and I think that helped them decide to bring the case forward, because it wasn't just my daughter. There were many other victims.
Right, because we've been talking a lot about shit. My next guest is Charlotte Laws, who is Charlotte Laws on Twitter. She is a revenge porn activist and now an author. Her book, Rebel in High Heels, came out in April. She's also a board member for the Cyber Civil Rights Initiative, an organization that assists victims of revenge porn and online harassment. She's been called the Erin Brockovich of revenge porn, which is a very cool name. Welcome, Charlotte.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine.
Charlotte, your story could fill 2 books. It's pretty epic, and I know you wrote the whole thing for us at Exo Jane. But if you could give us sort of the Cliff Notes version of how you came to be involved in this cause.
Yes, my daughter took some selfies in the mirror with her cell phone, over 100 pictures. One of them was topless. She sent them through her email to get to her computer, had no intention of ever showing the topless picture to anyone. 3 months later, she was hacked. 9 days later, the topless picture was on the most notorious revenge porn website, along with her name, her city, and her Twitter link. And she was absolutely freaked out, humiliated, called me. That was the first time I'd heard of revenge porn.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of effort trying to get the picture down, and in the meantime reached out to victims and helped them with their pictures and got law enforcement involved. And the FBI arrested the website owner and the alleged hacker about a year ago. Recently, the website owner pleaded guilty to hacking and identity theft, and his sentencing is next month, and the alleged hacker has a court date in about a week.
So that's pretty badass. You actually worked with the FBI.
Well, I started the case, and I provided a lot of names and phone numbers and contact information for people who had been hacked, and I think that helped them decide to bring the case forward, because it wasn't just my daughter. There were many other victims.
Right, because we've been talking a lot about horrible ex-boyfriends, but what you discovered was that revenge porn is not always about an ex sharing photos. A lot of women actually get their computers hacked into.
Exactly, and the media at the time was saying it was only disgruntled exes. And when my daughter got hacked, and then one of her friends was also hacked by the same hacker, that's when I realized there was a scheme, and I started contacting people to find out what percentage had been hacked, and based on my study, it was 40% had been hacked who ended up on this website. And some people were photoshopped, so 12% had never taken a nude or topless picture. Their headshot was cut off and put on a porn star's body, and then put on the internet with all of their identifying information.
And is there any reason we can't say who this guy is?
The alleged hacker, or no, Hunter Moore.
Yeah, Hunter Moore, a pretty scummy guy. People have probably heard of him, and the site was Is Anyone Up, right?
Exactly.
And you really played a big part in bringing him down.
Well, I put a lot of effort into this whole issue for the last 3 years, and I'm really happy that we now have laws in 18 states against revenge porn. We have Jackie Spear of California is planning to bring forth a federal law this year, and now law enforcement is taking these issues seriously, and people are much more aware. So I feel like we've come a long way.
Absolutely. How can women protect themselves?
Well, I mean, the best thing you can do is try to get a criminal law, an anti-revenge porn law passed in your state, because it's really, there is no real way to protect yourself. As I said, someone can cut your head shot off and stick it with a nude body and try to get you fired or try to drive you to suicide. So that's one of the problems about it, is there is no real protection. But if your picture's up there, there are measures you can take to try to get it removed. There are things you can do to try to de-index your picture. You can send in takedown notices to Google and other search engines so that your name is de-indexed from nude pictures. You can contact everybody associated with that website owner, including his mother and his sister.
All right.
You know, that kind of thing actually plays into it very big and can have a lot of impact on the outcome.
But all this takes a lot of time and effort, obviously.
It does.
We're here we were just talking to Destiny Lane, who, her story is not of hacking. An ex-boyfriend shared a video on the internet, but you kind of came out of this lucky. Charlotte's talking about people losing their jobs, getting fired. You told a story on XOJN about a teacher who lost her job. People feeling driven to suicide. Did it ever get that serious for you, Destiny?
So I was actually fortunate to work for a company that was very transparent, and my CEO actually came to me, and there was not a question of my job being lost. It was more so, what do you need from us? Do you need time? Do you need to hire a lawyer? If you can't afford that, do you want help? So I was in a very, very fortunate situation, but I wanted to speak out for the people who aren't in my situation. So yeah, I was very fortunate.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, Charlotte, what would you kind of tell a young woman who is a victim of revenge porn? I mean, just from an emotional perspective, how did you and your daughter get through that?
Well, I mean, now we have End Revenge Porn and the Cyber Civil Rights Initiative, which is the nonprofit that was started by Holly Jacobs. And so that's a resource for victims if they want to connect with other people, they want someone to talk to. The Cyber Civil Rights Legal Project are a group of attorneys, and they're in many states throughout the country, and they will help victims at no charge. So we have kind of a network of support. We even have a hotline. So, victims can find support now, but it is difficult. I mean, this is why I call it cyber rape, is because these victims act like traditional rape victims. It's a sex crime, and it's hard for them to fight for themselves. And usually they have to have a family member or a friend who can fight to get that content removed, because they just want to crawl into a hole and never come out.
Well, and how do you, what's sort of your response to the people, and I know there are a lot of them and I don't agree with them, but the people who say, like, well, you just shouldn't have taken that picture at all?
Well, that's victim blaming, and that's the same thing as telling a woman that the reason you got raped is because you walked down the alley at 10 o'clock at night, and so it's your own fault. So it's part of the misogyny of our society, and, the internet is very much a new frontier for women. It's basically a men's-only club, and some of I support free speech, but some people will say, well, you should be able to say and do anything online for that free speech. Well, if women are driven away from their computers, you don't have free speech anymore. You only have the nastiest and loudest voices are heard, or only the male voices will be heard, and the females will be driven away and attacked. And so revenge porn is one of those things where I feel is an exception. It should be an exception to the First Amendment. It's something private. It has nothing to do with the marketplace of ideas. It has nothing to do with, getting ideas into society and formulating a discussion. These are private nude pictures of individual people, and the Supreme Court has ruled that the First Amendment should be less stringent when it comes to private issues.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this is just the way of the world now. I mean, I'm 32, so I'm not even that younger generation that's grown up always having sort of the internet or always having camera phones, that kind of thing. And to me, it's very natural to take photographs. that are, sexy photographs to send them to a boyfriend, to, it's not really something that even I ever questioned. So I think younger people, that's just a part of life today. I think if cavemen had picture phones, they would have been taking pictures of their junk,
I think you're absolutely correct. So it is important to educate people about, about this issue and to get support for legislation. And, these guys, these perps who load the pictures and run these sites are very afraid of law enforcement. They do not want to go to jail. But they are not afraid of civil suits. They usually have no assets. They know the woman may have to spend a lot of money on attorneys just to bring the case forward. And also, the victims tend to not want to be identified with nude pictures. And if you go to court, in a civil case, you usually are going to have to be identified with that case. Now, that's not the case in California, but it is the case, as far as I know, in every other state. So there's a lot of downside to bringing a civil suit with respect to revenge porn.
Right.
But a criminal case is completely different.
So that's what these guys are banking on.
Yeah, exactly.
But thank God that there are people like you out there who took it a step farther to make this stop happening.
Well, we have a coalition now, and there are a lot of people. I mean, there's certainly at least a dozen or more people who are really out there fighting day in and day out to protect victims and to try to get laws passed. And the Women with the Cyber Civil Rights Initiative are examples of those really brave and intelligent women who are fighting for victims. So I'm really proud to be associated with all these people, and I'm really glad that we've come so far.
We have a few minutes left, so if anybody wants to call in and weigh in on this issue, it's 888-94-STARS, 888-947-8277. You can call in and let us know what you think of this issue, although if you tell us that you just shouldn't take pictures of yourself naked, you're probably not going to get a very good reception.
We're going to boo you.
Yeah, we will. Tell us about your book, Charlotte.
Well, my book is not only about the revenge porn fight, but it actually is about the first 22 years of my life as well. So it's only about 25% about revenge porn, and 75% is about my early life and about being a rebel prior to revenge porn and fighting kind of against the values of the society in which I grew, and trying to make an impact in other ways. So that's basically what the book is mostly about.
So you seriously could write a whole nother one.
Oh yeah, in fact, originally this book was like 800 pages. So that's the reason why it's only the first 22 years of my life, because I couldn't get all of the other experiences into the book. So, it talks about a lot of my party crashing and about my celebrity experiences and about Tom Jones, who was my first boyfriend.
That's right. You also wrote about that for XOJ.
I did. And, so the first time I've ever come forward with that. And so, I thought it was important to be truthful in my memoir, and I see it as a tribute to Tom. I mean, he is a wonderful, down-to-earth man, and I have nothing but good things to say about him, so I thought it was important to say something about that, and also about the fact that you should go after your dreams, and also about women pursuing a guy, letting a guy know that they're interested rather than feeling like they need to be the prey while the man is the hunter.
Right.
And I think, yeah.
Tom would never put a picture of your vagina on the internet, right?
No, he would never do something like that.
He's not that kind of guy.
No.
Thank you so much, Charlotte, for coming on. You can, if you want to read more about Charlotte's story, you can go to exojane.com, where she wrote a lengthy and very exciting piece, very cinematic, almost can't believe all the twists and turns to it, about her revenge porn story. Thank you to Julianne Smolinski. You can follow her on Twitter at boobsradley, and Destiny LaLane, who's on Twitter at Destiny LaLane. And thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week.